Every Monday morning around the world, something quietly predictable begins to unfold. Inside hospitals, doctors and nurses prepare for something they have come to expect. For decades, physicians around the world have noticed a strange pattern repeating itself. As the weekend ends and the workweek begins, something unusual starts to happen. Hospitals often experience a sudden increase in heart-related emergencies. The timing of this pattern is surprisingly consistent. Just as millions of people prepare to return to their jobs, the human body often reacts with a surge of stress. Researchers discovered that the most dangerous hour of the entire week happens on Monday morning. More specifically, the highest risk appears between 8 and 9 a.m. This moment aligns almost perfectly with the beginning of the traditional workday. Across cities around the world, millions of people are waking up and rushing to start their day. Some are sitting in traffic while others mentally prepare for meetings and deadlines. Inside the body, stress hormones begin quietly rising. Heart rates increase as the body shifts into a heightened state of alertness. For people already living under chronic stress, this moment can become especially dangerous. The sudden pressure can place serious strain on the heart. Doctors have a name for this strange weekly pattern. They call it the Monday morning effect. Researchers have studied this phenomenon for many years, but the exact causes behind the effect are surprisingly complex. Many experts believe psychological stress plays a major role. The transition from weekend freedom to weekday responsibility can create a powerful emotional shift. Suddenly, thoughts of deadlines and expectations begin to return. Workplace pressure and financial worries can quietly build into a wave of anxiety, and the body often responds to that emotional pressure in very physical ways. The uncomfortable answer may be simpler than we think. Millions of people may be living lives their bodies were never meant to endure. For most of human history, stress was short and temporary. Once the danger passed, the body would return to a state of recovery. But modern life rarely gives the body that same opportunity to recover. Today, psychological pressure often follows people everywhere. Deadlines, financial worries, and social expectations begin to pile up. Instead of occasional stress, many people now live with a constant stream of tension. Over time, this constant pressure slowly wears down both the mind and the body. But this pattern raises a deeper question, a question most people rarely stop to ask. If something as routine as Monday morning can trigger measurable stress, and it happens across millions of people every week, then what does that reveal about the structure of modern life? Why does a system designed to provide stability sometimes create the opposite? Why do so many people feel constantly exhausted? Why do anxiety and pressure follow so many people through their daily lives? And why do so many people feel trapped in cycles they struggle to escape? To understand the answer, we first need to step back and look at the structure of modern life. Because the stress people feel every Monday morning is not random. It is connected to a much larger system, a system that quietly organizes how time is used in modern society. It shapes how people work, and it quietly defines what society calls success. From childhood, most people begin moving through the same path. School leads to careers, and careers eventually lead to retirement. Yet very few people ever stop to question the pattern. Imagine your entire life laid out as a simple timeline. From the moment you are born, the clock quietly begins moving forward. In many developed countries, the average human lifespan now approaches 80 years. At first glance, 80 years sounds like an enormous amount of time. But life is rarely experienced as one long uninterrupted stretch. Instead, it is divided into phases that shape how time is spent. Years of education come first. Then decades of work begin to fill the middle of the timeline. And when you look closely, the time truly available for personal freedom suddenly begins to shrink. The first chapter of life lasts about 18 years. These years are not spent building careers. Instead, they are spent preparing to live. Childhood and adolescence are largely structured around education. Each day begins early. Students attend classes and follow carefully organized schedules. Assignments and exams measure progress along the way. Slowly, a rhythm of routine begins to take shape. A rhythm many people will continue experiencing throughout their working lives. Then comes the longest chapter of all, the chapter called work. This chapter usually begins in early adulthood, and for most people, it continues for decades. During this time, most waking hours are spent working. People build careers and develop professional identities. They work to support families and pay the bills of everyday life. In many ways, this chapter keeps society running. Yet it is also the time when life often feels most controlled by responsibilities. Eventually, the timeline reaches its final chapter. This chapter is called retirement. For many people, retirement represents the promise of freedom. It is often described as the time when life can finally slow down, the years when people hope to enjoy the rewards of their labor. But by the time many people reach this stage, something has changed. Physical energy is often no longer what it once was. After decades of demanding routines, the body begins to feel the weight of time. The years meant for freedom often arrive after the longest chapter of effort has already passed. In other words, the system quietly postpones happiness. It places the promise of fulfillment near the very end of life. Along the way, people are encouraged to wait. Work hard now, enjoy life later. Sacrifice today so that tomorrow might be easier. Dreams and personal interests are often postponed, but the future is never guaranteed. For many people, the promise of happiness slowly drifts further away. The dream becomes something reserved for someday. Consider the story of Daniel. Daniel is not just one person. In many ways, he represents millions of ordinary lives. From a young age, Daniel believed happiness was waiting just ahead. Each milestone in life seemed like a step towards something better. At first, the pattern felt perfectly logical. But as the years passed, something began to feel different. The moment he expected happiness to arrive never quite appeared. It always seemed to remain just beyond the next milestone. At first, Daniel believed happiness was waiting at the end of school. He often told himself, "When I finish school, then I'll be happy." For years, school had been filled with studying, exams, and expectations. Graduation began to feel like the long-awaited finish line. He imagined that once school ended, real life would finally begin. Eventually, the day finally arrived. For a brief moment, it felt like the beginning of freedom. But almost immediately, new questions began to appear. Instead of freedom, Daniel now faced the pressure of building a future. Soon Daniel began telling himself a new story. "When I get a good job, then I'll be happy." At first, the search for work felt exciting. Eventually, the opportunity he had been waiting for arrived. A steady paycheck felt like the beginning of independence. For a moment, it felt like he was finally moving forward. But the reality of work soon revealed itself. Long hours, deadlines, and expectations began to fill his days. The job that once symbolized freedom slowly became another routine. As the years passed, Daniel found himself chasing another milestone. He began telling himself, "When I buy a house." To Daniel, owning a home represented success. It felt like proof that his life was moving forward. For a moment, the milestone felt like a victory, but the dream came with new obligations. Mortgage payments began to appear every month. Maintenance costs and financial responsibilities slowly grew. The dream that once symbolized freedom quietly introduced a new layer of pressure. And slowly, almost without noticing, time kept moving forward. The milestones continued to appear one after another. Each achievement felt important at the time, but something subtle began to happen. What once felt extraordinary slowly became normal. Psychologists have a name for this pattern. They call it the hedonic treadmill. No matter how far someone runs, the finish line keeps moving. And without realizing it, decades quietly pass. The strange part is that this cycle often begins much earlier than people realize. For many people, it quietly begins in school. Education plays an essential role in every society. Schools provide knowledge and skills that help people contribute to the world. But alongside learning, another pattern begins to form. From an early age, students are introduced to performance and competition. Daily schedules become a central part of school life. Students learn to follow instructions and meet deadlines. Yet few ever stop to question how these patterns might shape their future lives. Yet one of the most important life skills is often missing from the classroom. Financial education is rarely part of the standard curriculum. Students often spend years learning advanced academic subjects, but practical knowledge about money is rarely explained. Topics like budgeting and saving are often overlooked. Investing and long-term financial planning remain unfamiliar to many graduates. As a result, Many people enter adulthood without understanding money systems. Yet these systems will influence many of the most important decisions in their lives. Without that knowledge, the financial world can feel confusing and overwhelming. Health education is often presented in very simple ways. Students are encouraged to exercise and eat well. Posters often promote basic health advice, but the deeper science behind health is rarely explored. Few students learn how stress affects the human body. The connection between work environments and long-term health is rarely discussed. Yet chronic stress can influence the heart over time. It can also weaken the immune system and affect mental well-being. Without understanding this connection, many people enter adulthood unaware of the long-term consequences. Over the years, students learn how to operate inside structured systems. They learn to follow schedules. They learn to complete assignments and meet deadlines. They learn to meet expectations. These skills are valuable and important, but they do not automatically teach people how to live balanced lives. After graduation, many people step directly into the world of work, and the transition can feel almost automatic. The system trains people to work but not always to truly live. Once adulthood begins, new responsibilities quickly appear. Monthly expenses quietly become part of everyday life. Rent, utilities, and loan payments begin to accumulate. For many people, mortgages and long-term debts soon follow. Family responsibilities can add another layer of commitment. These obligations create a powerful need for stable income. Even when someone feels dissatisfied with their work, leaving can feel risky. The fear of losing financial security often keeps people where they are. Over time, these obligations quietly lock many people into the same routines. In modern culture, stress is often treated as a symbol of success. Many people proudly describe how busy they are. Long work hours are often seen as proof of dedication. Being constantly active is sometimes mistaken for productivity. The busier someone appears, the more valuable they may seem. Over time, this mindset slowly changes how work is perceived. Stress begins to feel normal. The line between ambition and exhaustion slowly fades, and the culture of constant productivity continues to grow. The human body evolved to respond to danger. When a threat appears, the body quickly prepares to react. This response is known as the fight or flight system. In short moments of danger, this system is extremely useful. It increases alertness and prepares the body to act. But this system was designed for short bursts of stress. Modern life often keeps this system activated for far too long. Weeks, months, or even years of stress can strain the body. When stress becomes constant, the system meant to protect us can begin causing harm. Yet for millions of people, constant pressure has become part of everyday life. The day often begins with the rush of the morning commute. Many people spend long periods traveling to work. Once the workday begins, demanding tasks quickly follow. Deadlines and expectations continue to build throughout the day. Financial concerns often remain in the background as well. Technology keeps people connected to work throughout the day. Even moments meant for rest are often interrupted. For many people, the cycle of pressure continues from morning until night. Ironically, the pursuit of financial security can come with hidden costs. Many people spend long hours sitting at desks. Physical movement becomes limited during the workday. Late nights and long hours often disrupt healthy sleep patterns. Over time, these habits slowly begin to affect the body. Cardiovascular health can gradually be placed under strain. Mental health can also begin to suffer. Exhaustion and burnout may appear after years of constant pressure. The effort to build a secure future can quietly damage the health needed to enjoy it. Many people begin their careers with the hope of building a better life. The promise is simple: work hard now, enjoy life later. At first, the goal seems reasonable, but over time, the pursuit begins to demand more and more. Long hours slowly consume time and energy. Health and personal time quietly begin to fade. Yet the promise of success keeps the cycle moving forward. For many people, pausing, the cycle begins to feel impossible. In chasing success, many sacrifice the life they were trying to improve. For decades, society followed a simple belief about success: work hard, succeed, and happiness will eventually follow. This idea has shaped how many people approach life. From childhood, success is often presented as the path to happiness. The message is clear: achieve the degree, earn the promotion, collect the rewards, and eventually, fulfillment will arrive. But psychologists studying human behavior began noticing something surprising. Happiness may not be the reward waiting at the end. Instead, happiness may be the foundation that allows success to grow. The human brain constantly responds to emotional signals. Different emotions can change how the brain operates. When the brain senses danger, it shifts into survival mode. In this state, attention becomes narrow and focused. This response helps people react quickly to immediate threats. But when people experience positive emotions, the brain behaves differently. Optimism and curiosity expand the brain's ability to think creatively. Problem solving and innovation become easier. Positive emotions allow the brain to explore new possibilities. Happiness does more than improve how people feel. It can also influence how people perform. Researchers studying workplaces have noticed an interesting pattern. Employees who report higher happiness levels often collaborate more easily. They approach challenges with greater resilience. Motivation often remains stronger during difficult projects. Their minds are less overwhelmed by stress. This clarity helps improve concentration and decision-making. Happy people often perform better in their work and relationships. Happiness influences more than just productivity. It also plays an important role in physical health. Emotional well-being affects how the body functions internally. People with positive outlooks often experience healthier blood pressure levels. Their hearts tend to function more efficiently. The immune system can also become stronger. These small biological advantages may seem subtle at first, but over years, they can lead to meaningful long-term benefits. Happiness can quietly support the health needed to enjoy life for longer. In other words, happiness is not simply a luxury. It is a powerful resource for the human mind and body. A fulfilling life creates a healthier psychological environment. In this environment, the brain and body function more effectively. People who build lives around purpose often develop stronger resilience. Meaningful relationships can strengthen emotional stability. These elements help individuals navigate stress and adversity. Over time, this resilience strengthens both performance and well-being. Happiness, in this sense, becomes a survival advantage. Faced with stress and pressure, many people search for a simple solution. For many, that solution seems obvious. Earn more money. Money certainly plays an important role in modern life. It provides access to shelter and security. It can also support healthcare and stability. But research has revealed an interesting pattern. Once basic needs are satisfied, the link between money and happiness becomes more complex. More income may increase comfort, but it does not always create fulfillment. Money can certainly improve the comfort of everyday life. It can provide safe housing and stability. Reliable transportation and daily convenience often follow. Financial stability can remove many immediate worries, but comfort is not the same as fulfillment. Fulfillment often comes from deeper internal experiences. Meaningful relationships also play an important role. Personal growth and purpose can provide lasting satisfaction. Money can provide comfort, but purpose is what often creates fulfillment. Something interesting often happens when people begin earning more money. At first, the increase in income feels exciting, but the sense of freedom does not always grow as expected. Over time, spending often begins to increase as well. A slightly larger home may seem like a reasonable upgrade. A more expensive vehicle can feel like a natural improvement. Lifestyle upgrades slowly begin to accumulate. Each change feels reasonable on its own, but together they create a lifestyle that requires constant income to maintain. Psychologists have identified a pattern behind this behavior. They call it lifestyle inflation. Lifestyle inflation begins when income increases, but spending increases at the same time. Instead of creating freedom, higher income supports higher costs. The upgraded lifestyle slowly becomes the new normal. Soon the individual depends on maintaining the higher income. What once felt like progress can quietly create new pressure. Lifestyle inflation can trap people in an endless financial cycle. True financial freedom often begins with an unexpected idea. Instead of needing more, it begins with needing less. Reducing unnecessary spending can create unexpected freedom. Focusing on what truly matters changes financial priorities. As spending decreases, the gap between income and expenses grows. Savings begin to accumulate. Investments begin to compound. With fewer financial pressures, the need to constantly earn more begins to fade. Financial freedom is often less about accumulating more and more about designing a life that requires less. Breaking free from the cycle is not simply a financial decision. It often requires something many people underestimate. That something is courage. Changing direction in life can feel deeply uncomfortable, even when people sense their current path is not fulfilling. The uncertainty of change can feel intimidating. Familiar routines often feel safe and predictable. New possibilities, however, introduce risk. As a result, many people stay on paths that feel stable even if those paths limit their happiness. The human brain naturally prefers what feels familiar. Familiar routines create a sense of safety. The brain often interprets stability as protection. Psychologists describe this tendency as the status quo bias. This bias encourages people to remain in situations they already know, even when better opportunities may exist elsewhere. The brain sometimes interprets change as potential danger. As a result, people often stay within familiar routines. Yet sometimes the door to change has been open all along. Real change rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. Most transformations begin quietly. They start with a simple decision, a decision to try something new, or a decision to explore a different direction. Over time, these small steps begin to accumulate. New skills and interests gradually reshape a person's life. Priorities slowly begin to shift. Every transformation is built one small decision at a time. The goal is not to escape work completely. Work itself is not the true problem. Human beings naturally seek opportunities to contribute. People are driven to create and solve problems. The deeper challenge is finding alignment. Work becomes more sustainable when it reflects personal values. Purpose can transform effort into motivation. When work feels meaningful, exhaustion often decreases. Purposeful work can bring energy instead of draining it. When people discover a strong sense of purpose, something begins to change. Motivation often begins to appear naturally. Psychologists have studied this phenomenon closely. They describe a powerful mental state known as flow. During flow, attention becomes deeply focused. Distractions begin to disappear. Time itself can seem to move differently. Productivity and creativity often increase dramatically. Flow can become one of the most fulfilling experiences the mind can achieve. In modern society, success is often defined by visible achievements. These symbols are easy to recognize. Luxury cars are often used as one example. Large homes can become another visible symbol. Prestigious job titles also carry social status. Because these symbols are visible, they are easy to compare. Over time, they become the default way people measure achievement. But these symbols only show the surface of success. They rarely reveal the deeper quality of a person's daily life. Yet the most valuable forms of wealth are often invisible. These forms of wealth cannot always be seen. Emotional well-being is one example. Meaningful relationships are another. Good health is also a powerful form of wealth. Peace of mind can be just as valuable as material success. These forms of wealth rarely appear in public displays, yet they shape how people experience each day. Sometimes the richest lives are the quietest ones. Among all the resources people pursue, one stands above the rest. That resource is time. Unlike money, time cannot be replaced. Once time passes, it becomes part of the past forever. Every moment quietly moves life forward. How people choose to spend their time shapes their lives. Some time is invested in work and responsibilities. Other moments are spent building relationships and personal growth. The freedom to choose how time is used may be the clearest measure of true wealth. People who experience lasting fulfillment often view success differently. For them, success is not only about accumulation. Material possessions gradually become less important. Autonomy becomes a greater priority. Balance becomes another important goal. Time, health, and meaningful experiences are carefully protected. Life becomes intentionally designed rather than constantly rushed. In this perspective, wealth becomes the freedom to choose. Success becomes the ability to live life on your own terms. There is one truth about life that people rarely pause to consider. Life is not a rehearsal. Unlike games or simulations, there are no practice rounds. Each moment moves forward only once. Every decision becomes part of a permanent story. Every opportunity shapes the direction of that story. Every year becomes another chapter that cannot be replayed. This realization can feel unsettling, but it also reminds us to live intentionally. Yet many people behave as if time will always be available. It often feels like there will always be another opportunity. Travel plans are postponed. Learning new skills is delayed for later. Old friendships are left for another time. Dreams are quietly placed on hold. The word later slowly becomes a habit. Over time, that habit turns into a powerful illusion. Someday becomes the place where many experiences are stored. But time does not pause while we wait. It continues moving forward every moment. Days slowly become weeks. Weeks gradually become months. Months quietly become years. Entire chapters of life can pass within familiar routines. Because the change is gradual, it often goes unnoticed. Time accumulates faster than we expect, and the years move forward whether we notice or not. At some point, a quiet realization can appear. The realization that waiting has become a habit. For many people, life has been postponed for later. But the most powerful moment arrives when that pattern is questioned. Awareness becomes the first step toward change. When people recognize the patterns shaping their lives, they gain the ability to question those patterns. That moment creates the possibility of a new direction. Change often begins the moment we stop waiting. For many people, happiness has been placed far in the future. Often it is imagined as something that begins after decades of work. But life is not a destination that suddenly begins at the end. Life is a journey unfolding moment by moment. Meaningful moments can appear at any stage. They can happen during ordinary days. They appear when people create space for them. Happiness can exist throughout the journey. It was never meant to wait until the end. Work plays an important role in human life. Through work, people contribute and create value. But work was never meant to become the center of life. Life includes many dimensions beyond productivity. Balance allows effort and well-being to exist together. When work reflects personal values, motivation increases. Growth becomes possible without constant exhaustion. Productivity and happiness can grow together. Work should support life, not replace it. Money plays a powerful role in modern life. It can open many opportunities, but financial decisions shape how those opportunities unfold. Sometimes money expands freedom. Other times it quietly creates pressure. The difference often lies in how resources are used. When money is used intentionally, it can support independence. It can also create security and meaningful life experiences. Money should create freedom, not chains. Education plays a crucial role in shaping human lives. Traditionally, schools focus on preparing students for careers. This preparation often emphasizes earning potential, but living well requires more than technical knowledge. Understanding health is one essential life skill. Strong relationships are another important part of life. Emotional well-being also deserves attention. Financial wisdom can guide important life decisions. A balanced education prepares people not only to work but to live. Life is happening in this very moment. Yet many people believe life will truly begin later. The promise of someday becomes a habit. But meaningful experiences exist in the present. Curiosity and discovery can happen every day. Opportunities often exist closer than we expect. Waiting for perfect conditions can become a trap, because the perfect moment rarely arrives. Life is meant to be experienced today. Eventually, every life reaches a quiet moment of reflection. In that moment, the usual measures of success begin to fade. The alarms that once started each day eventually fall silent. Meetings and deadlines slowly become distant memories. What remains are the moments that truly mattered. Moments of connection. Moments of curiosity and discovery. Moments where life was fully experienced. Because in the end, the true measure of life is not its length but how fully it was lived.